Welcome back, everybody, for grand finals. We have Toth 201 facing off against KampfKrote, the tournament favorite, facing off against a man, the only player who received 0 fan votes, didn't even vote for himself. So, despite the lack of faith from the audience, he made his way all the way here to the finals with his innovative Shimmer Pack list that I imagine he's looking to use to great effect to take down this tournament.
Yeah, and we're all pretty excited about it. As you can tell from the all caps Shimmer Pack.
Yeah, it should be a great match. I'm really interested to see how it pans out. Now, of note, because Toth is from winner's bracket, he does have winner's bracket advantage, and Conf will need to win this best of 5 match and then another best of 5 match in order to win the tournament. However, Toth just needs to win this one or the next one.
You're not out of the tournament until you lose 2 matches, and Toth has lost none so far.
Yeah, he's smashed his way here quite quickly with a 2-0, a 2-1, and a 3-0 to make it all the way here. So he's only actually lost 1 game all day. He's running real hot.
Yep, so it falls to KampfKrote to see if he can end Toth's run. And he has a okay hand. It's got an Argenport Instigator for early pressure, but 2 Death Strikes, which are nearly useless against Toth's token strategy.
Yeah, but Toth's not off to the fastest start at the moment. He's only got seats, so depleted power is going to slow him down a fair bit. And he's only got a single Grenadin drone, but that time sigil draw is pretty good for him. Accelerates him into his 2s and 3s. So unless Conf can start putting on some pressure, Toth might be able to push it out.
Yeah, I imagine Kampf wants to start attacking, especially with all these torches in hand. He's missing his 3rd power, but he's actually not looking too bad if he draws a fire specifically to create an overwhelming champion of chaos soon.
Yeah, or a banner would be even better, giving him that double shadow that he needs, while also allowing him to deploy his champion. However,
this 2-1 is about the best target he's going to get for a torch, I think.
Well, Suffocate's even better.
Yeah, Suffocate doesn't have the ability to go to the face later. And Argenport Instigator's effect is being put to good use here, dealing an extra point of damage every time Kampf uses a removal spell.
That said, Conf is going to need to draw power at some point, or he's going to fall quite far behind.
Yeah, especially with his one source of pressure now permafrosted. And a whole slew of small units on Toth's side.
6-drop's not what you want to see when you're stuck on 2. So.
Yeah, this Stone Scar midrange deck is one of the most powerful decks in the game if you draw basically exactly 5 or 6 power. And if you draw fewer than that or more than 8 or 9, it doesn't really function very well.
No, it's certainly a very power dependent deck. If it floods out or doesn't draw enough, it doesn't get the kind of cards that it needs. It's a card quality deck rather than a sort of card advantage or card quantity deck.
Yeah, you just put in all the most powerful cards and hope to run average.
Well,
and a second permafrost for Kampf's 2nd unit. But Toth isn't putting on much pressure here. He's only dealing 2 damage a turn, and Kampf just found a 4th power to deploy a Steward of the Past next turn.
He does. Toth does have that scouting party in hand, I believe, which I imagine he's going to cast here and draw a whole bunch of cards off that vault, plus the party. So it's not looking great for Conf here. But if he can find, I believe, does he play a plague in the main deck?
3 plagues in the main deck, okay. Actually.
So if
he definitely has outs to this board.
It's not quite a plague, but it's a start. Do you go for the Suffocate?
Toth is going to draw a whole bucket of cards here.
Well.
So he swings with everything. So Kampf is going to be able to kill 1 Yeti, take 5 damage down to 14 health. Toth is going to draw 3 cards, plus likely another one from the vault if he plays 2 units. So Kampf is going to need one of those plagues or a couple more power to get that Infernal Tyrant online pretty soon.
It's not looking good if Toth can ever find his deck's name-shaped card, Shimmer Pack. It should probably just end the game on the spot, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to imagine a Shimmer Pack not ending the game immediately.
Well, I guess Comp's going to need some of my namesake, some RNG on his side in order to draw that plague here and get himself back into it. Otherwise, he may be going down one game in a series he cannot afford to lose if he wants to win this tournament.
The interesting thing about these permafrosts is that the units remain on the board. So Argenport Instigator is still pinging the owner of a unit every time it dies. And if this Infernal Tyrant lands, Kampf will gain a bunch of life from it dealing 2 damage to all of his other units.
So it looks
So
like
I
that
think
would.
really power or plague.
That's neither. That's not exactly what he wants to see. So he can take down 2 of the units, but there's still going to be 7 uh, coming his way.
Yeah, just the casual 7 units, just another day in the life of a FTP Shimmer Pack deck.
And there
And
is.
there is Shimmer Pack. And I think, as predicted, that's just going to end it instantly.
I I think we'll go to attackers, but after that, I don't think we're going to be sticking around very long. And
Oh, hey, what do you know? There are now 10 Shimmer Packs, and the game is over.
well, there was only actually one Shimmer Pack on the end of game screen, but that went by pretty quick. So since there's no sideboarding, the players are going to get right back into it, and we're going to be right back with game 2 in probably about 30 seconds here. As Toth goes up one game in the series.
Yeah, and he's also up 1 set, don't forget. So Kampf really has to fight for his life and win 6 games here if he wants to win this tournament. And this hand is more like it. He's got enough power to deploy a Champion of Chaos, and with one more, he can get a Statuary Maiden, which he saw in his last match against a Vault deck was very, very effective at getting a whole bunch of cudgels and just really bludgeoning the opponent.
It's still got a Death Strike in it, and it's not the fastest of hands. Do you think you just hard mulligan for Plague in this matchup? Is that card important enough that you just have to go looking for it?
That's a good point. Plague is way, way better than all the rest of your cards. And Argenport Instigator is also quite good to push early damage that you have a chance to end the game before Shimmer Pack comes online. So I could see an argument for mulliganing that hand looking for one of those 2 cards.
See, my concern with this hand is it needs to draw power before it does anything, but if you're drawing power, you're not really impacting the board in the early game, and the champion that you're playing isn't even going to be better than a 3/3. Although I guess it is now with the Vera's favor, so he did draw something better than a power. Um, but I guess we'll have to see how far the Statuary Maiden can carry him.
Normally, you'd want to save the Var's favor against a token deck, but he needs the 4th power so badly. And it looks like he's not really going to be punished, as Toth isn't playing anything frightening here. He's not playing that Initiative Sands.
Well, that banner is another good draw since it's a fire source to activate that champion, and it pushes him towards the Umbran Reaper strategy. And again, the Sky strategy looks pretty good against all these decks that are gumming up the ground with tokens.
Yeah, the only answer Toth really has to Umbran Reaper is his answer to everything, which is Shimmer Pack to transform it into a 4/4.
It's not an unreasonable answer, but it is a pretty expensive one. He does also have the permafrost, however, to slow it down.
Oh yeah, that's right. The more we talk about it, the more I think about it, the more impressed I am by Shimmer Pack. That card is just incredible.
Well, it was a bit of a fringe deck before, but it seems to be doing quite well in this tournament against all of these decks that are looking to go 1-for-1. That said, all the decks that were playing the Lightning Storms and the Plagues got knocked out very early on, and Toth didn't actually need to face any of them. So it could just be a case of positioning in the tournament metagame. There were decks ready to face this kind of strategy, but they didn't survive against the linear aggressive decks that had all the burn and the 1-for-1 removal spells. And then the grindy decks that made it through were able to do quite well.
Yeah, and as we go back to the game here, this Kampf's Statuary Maiden is making it almost impossible for Toth to block. If he blocks, his unit will get turned into a cudgel, and then once this champion gets overwhelmed, it's just going to push even more damage through.
Now, Permafrost is a pretty good answer to Umbran Reaper, but it's a much worse answer to Statuary Maiden, as the Maiden is most dangerous because of its effect, not because of its stat line.
Oh, and he's attacking with the Statuary Maiden, which is kind of a dead giveaway that he has a Death Strike. If he didn't have a Death Strike, he would risk losing it to a double block from these buffed up Grenadin, and he would never expose his important card like that.
Well, I think it's a bit of a semi-bluff because even if you do get blocked by two Grenadins, you do get two cudgels out of the deal. So it's not the worst thing in the world, and you've cut his board down by quite a bit. But I agree with you that this does expose that he has some kind of fast removal, since most players would not make that attack without it.
So Toth wisely does not block, but that then frees up Kampf's power to drop an Umbran Reaper, and it's looking pretty grim for Toth at this point. He doesn't have a fifth power. He doesn't have Primal to cast his Permafrost on that Umbran Reaper. It's looking like he's going to be dead in another turn or two here.
I think he can play the Marison's Disciple to get a flyer to block it, but that doesn't really deal too well with the ground threats either. So I agree with you. I think Toth might be on the losing end of this game. That's an interesting attack. Okay, decides against it.
Yeah, I think he has to just play the Disciple and create a flyer to block the Reaper, and then maybe throw his whole team in front of that 5/5. Because you can't chump block it with a combination of Deadly and Overwhelm.
Yeah, that doesn't work out very well.
Or rather, I suppose you can, but it only prevents one damage per blocker.
I think this attack could make more sense if you're on some kind of more aggressive tokens variant, something with rally and stuff.
Local Pojo's rallies.
Yeah, but without the aggressive strategy, I think that this is sort of a hopeless attack, if you will. I don't know that it is going to be enough to get him out of this.
Now, Cudgel goes on the Reaper, and looks like Toth just packs it in.
Yeah. Well, with no primal, he's taking 7 in the air. Basically regardless of how he blocks, he's going to take 3 to 5 from the champion, and then he can chump. He can chump the Statuary Maiden if he wants to survive the turn, but he's not long for this world. So, Kampf evens it up at 1-1 with a pretty good draw against not a very good one from Toth, and both players go into sideboarding. So let's go back over to Toth's list and see what he's working with.
Well, these polymorphs don't look bad against all of the powerful effects out of Kampf's deck. Polymorphing Umbran Reaper or Statuary Maiden is quite powerful. And maybe even the Crystallize, even if he's not the aggressor. Like, the best use of Crystallize is to stun all your opponent's blockers so you get 2 turns of attacking unimpeded. But even defending, it does stop a turn of attacking, unless you win a close race.
Ephemeral Wisp is definitely not what you want. Going into the Stewards and Statuary Maidens and all sorts of nonsense that punishes you for having them die. And Backlash could be an option here. It's good against the Plagues, depending on what kind of strategy, again, Toth wants to play, whether he wants to play a more do you have it play out on the board or a more defensive, protect his units kind of play.
Yeah, it's very interesting because Kampf could go into a Sabotage or Treachery type deck. He could go into a Soulfire Drake type deck. It's hard to know what to prepare for.
Well,
so I think Toth just wants to play it safe and stay with his proactive go wide strategy.
Let's take another look at Kampf and see what sort of options he has in this particular matchup. As you said, he's got those Sabotages in the board, which are going to be pretty good against all the spells and relics in Toth's deck, so I imagine we'll be seeing those coming in. Treacheries can also be quite good to pick off the Shimmer packs in there. And Obliterate can get the last points of damage through, but I think Soulfire Drakes might be better in this matchup. Again, just go over top of everything else. What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely board in the Soulfire Drake. Other than that, it's really hard to tell. All of his cards are good. Maybe I would cut a couple of Death Strikes. Perhaps Cabal Countess could leave as well.
I think you get your bad 1-for-1 removal out. You get your Death Strikes, your Cabal Countess, and your Annihilates out, and you bring in those Sabotages, Treacheries, and Soulfire Drakes. That's what I do. But it looks like the players have made their decisions and they're into the match. So we're coming back with Game 3. Reminder that this is a best of 5, so no matter who wins this game, we will have another game after this. So Countess
looks
stayed
like
in.
Left in those Cabal Countesses.
Count-I. I don't think that's correct. Yeah, but he's got a pretty good hand if he draws another Fire Source. or another. Well, I guess he needs another Shadow Source to play the Countess. This is kind of a borderline hand. You need power, but it's pretty good if you draw it. So Kampf decides to keep.
Yep, he agrees with you.
Toth, I believe, mulliganed into again a hand that's missing a color. Oh no, no, he still doesn't have any primal, but he's only got a
Just like
single.
he does have a Amber Acolyte to find
Oh,
his colors.
there's that primal, so it looks like Toss hand is just perfectly fine, and he's running on all cylinders. Kampf decides to decline to play the champion as just a 3/3 instead, planning to ambush out that Countess. Countess isn't that good if you don't ultimate it against all these tokens, though.
Yeah, he needs to draw his 4th power on his next turn. Otherwise, the 4/1 is going to be looking pretty embarrassing against the assembly line Grenadin.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like Toth is thinking about what he wants to play here. No, it looks like the Amber Acolyte is the one that comes down. We've got a lot of hand cam desyncing, which is
Top is almost a full turn ahead here.
yeah, I'm sure that's as difficult for you all as it is for us. But oh, we have a spicy turn here. I don't think you ultimate. Yeah, you go for the champion plus suffocate play, and you get in for 4, and you deploy a very powerful threat in this matchup.
Yeah, and then he has a Statuary Maiden coming, and it's going to be just like last game. Champion of Chaos plus Statuary Maiden is tough times for this tokens deck.
So Toth decides to go for the polymorph immediately, it looks like. As that's the card that has disappeared from his hand.
Yeah, a 1/1 is definitely much more manageable than a 5/5 Overwhelm Deadly, but that means he's not going to have an answer to this follow-up Statuary Maiden, which could be a lot of trouble for him.
Well, he had the potential to rely on a Scorpion Wasp there, but he's still going to take 4 damage from it there, so it may just be better to get it out of the way now. Is probably what he's thinking.
It'll be interesting to see as the game develops if Kampf plays around that Scorpion Wasp by not attacking with his Statuary Maiden on later turns.
Well, I think we can all agree that it makes sense to skip the ultimate. The 2 damage is less valuable than getting that Statuary Maiden out there. But
yeah, until Toth has some blockers, there's really no reason to activate the quick draw on that Countess. Although the Countess is looking a lot more powerful than we thought it would be when we were talking about sideboarding. It's done 8 damage already, and it's about to deal a bunch more.
Yeah, well, I have to agree. I have been much more impressed with Cabal Countess than I thought I would be. Just looking at the sideboards, I would have thought he'd be better off with other cards, but it's pulling its weight here, that's for sure.
This Statuary Maiden really makes all of Kampf's removal, like Suffocate and Torch, worth it against these Grenadin. Like, normally it would feel awful to spend your removal spell on 1/3 of an opponent's spell, but when it also gets you a Cudgel, you actually feel pretty good about it.
And boosting up a Cabal Countess with Cudgels isn't the worst either. It's sort of like an Umbran Reaper and just how much attack it ends up with, and with that quick draw, it's going to be able to get through.
Yeah, and he does attack with the Maiden, but Toth does not have the power available for Scorpion Wasp, so isn't able to punish that.
It looks like Toth is just too far on the back foot this match in order to be able to take it. He's pretty far behind on board. He doesn't really have any big sweepers. Like a Harsh Rule here would be really good, but not in those colors. So I'm not certain what he can draw that'll be able to pull him back into this game.
Yeah, just time and again, these champions and Statuary Maidens just deliver the beats. Toth goes fishing for answers with the Temple Scribe, but there are no answers waiting for him.
So once again, it looks like this is a tempo-determined matchup, and a matchup that doesn't look like it would be, that determined by tempo. Whoever can get far enough ahead on board is the player that has all of the priority and is determining all the plays, is what it appears to be to me. Here there's a negate for a torch, but we're getting pretty close to the point where there's not a lot that a single negate can do.
Yeah, the 2 damage from the backlash is irrelevant to Kampf's 25 health. He has a huge lead on board. Now there's a 7/7 overwhelm. This is just going great for him.
Might as well have gotten in there with the frog. At worst, it trades and you get another cudgel, right? So, but
That poor
it's
frog has come so far. What do you have against that little guy? Just let him hang out.
uh, yeah, he's an innocent bystander to the carnage in front of him. Okay,
And
well,
so Toth is reduced to 6 health, and Kampf gets yet another cudgel, and that one is for the frog.
wants to make sure his little buddy survives. Yeah, it's looking like this is the end for Toth, especially since his portrait has exploded on the hand cam, thus making it basically the end.
Yeah, a little preview. We know that he concedes this turn.
And there you have it. Okay, so that is game 3. So Kampf takes it 2-1, which is good because he needs this set in order to be able to win the tournament. But it also puts him up 2-1 against Toth. So they're ready for game 4. So we're just going to stick around here. But do you think Toth can bring it back 2 games?
I think it's definitely possible if he's able to draw Scorpion Wasp, Permafrost, or Polymorph for each of the Champion of Chaos and Statuary Maiden. Then I think the rest of his deck prevails just based on how wide he goes. But when Kampf has those cards that invalidate the go wide strategy, then Toth is just getting crushed.
So I think in answer to my question earlier, no, you do not need to mulligan super aggressively for Plague. Kampf hasn't played a single copy, and he's up 2-1.
Yeah, that's actually very surprising and a very good point. And this hand, he has double Treachery.
So,
So we'll see how a discard heavy hand goes for him.
so I was incorrect about the Cabal Countess, but he did bring in both the Soulfire Drakes and the Treacheries. However, we haven't seen a single Sabotage yet, which is interesting to me.
He must be more afraid of the units than of the relics from Southside.
It's possible he just thinks that, his deck's all 1/1s. My 5/5s are going to crush through those. As long as I can keep Shimmer Pack off the board, he's going to be fine. Which, it doesn't not make sense, but it implies a more aggressive game plan, which is what he's playing. I thought he'd be taking more of a defensive line.
Yeah, and he has another really great aggressive hand here. He's going to be able to play a Cabal Countess, ambush at end of turn, and then on his turn, Treachery plus Torch and get in.
Treachery has a difficult choice there to make between two of the same unit. Picks the one on the left. We'll have to see how that pans out for him. You torch and get in here, right?
I think you Torch. It's worth 4 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he agrees.
But he has to suspect that the Marison's Disciple is coming down next turn. Although, interestingly, because he torched that turn, the banner that Toth drew is no longer coming into play undepleted, and he's left with a very awkward turn 3, or turn 4.
He just Permafrost. That's a good target for Permafrost as opposed to a Statuary Maiden, which would still be working when under a Permafrost stun. But the Treachery this time catches a Shimmer Pack.
I was not aware that he had a Shimmer Pack in hand. Okay, but Kampf is stalled on power a bit here. He's going to need, as soon as he does draw power, I think he's in fantastic shape. But if he continues to stall and draw, high drops, it's possible that Toth could get back into this, especially with a good scouting party.
Yeah, Toth has quite a few options, but none of them really challenge this Argenport Instigator. I suppose he's going to play the Disciple and make a 3/3?
That seems like the most likely play. It contests the Instigator the best. It plays around Torch as well as anything you can do with a Disciple. On the other hand, it's possible he could want to deploy Vault of the Praxis and start getting his card draw together, or even a Xenon Obelisk to start pushing his stuff out of board range. So the Disciple is the most likely play, but he did have a couple of options there.
I like this Torch at end of turn. Now if Kampf draws a power, he can deploy the Statuary Maiden immediately.
Oh, you drew an Annihilate. I don't know if you actually Annihilate there. I know it uses your power pretty well, but the 2/2 couldn't block you anyhow, and you were going to get in there for damage, and you can always Annihilate end of turn if you wanted to. I think holding on to it would have been the better play there, but it's the aggressive line, does an extra damage, clears away a blocker, turns off any banners he may draw.
Yeah, I like saving the Annihilate also because it's better later on once you have a Statuary Maiden in play.
Yeah. So we're gonna call that an aggressive line that he took. That
So
said,
Toph
Toth
is
is
still holding on to this polymorph. He knows that Kampf has some really scary units once he gets another power or two, and he really needs to save that polymorph for those units and not this Archerport Instigator that doesn't have much text beyond attacking and blocking.
well, the Countess drew out the permafrost that he probably wanted to save for something like an Umbran Reaper, so he has to hold on to the polymorph against all those great death strikes. And here he's rewarded a bit for his patience as the maiden eventually comes down, and he still has access to the polymorph in order to stop it.
Yeah, so you don't block this turn and drop to 9 health, which is kind of fretting against an opponent who you know has access to Soulfire Drake and Obliterate.
And Umbran Reaper, this deck may say Stonescar midrange, but it's packing a fair amount of burn.
Yeah, it certainly can close the game in a hurry, as you've seen from his numerous turn 6 victories this tournament. But this Shimmer Pack deck is no joke either. He's just one power off of playing his signature card.
It would be okay on this board, honestly. Make two 4/4s, turn your opponent's Statuary Maiden into a 4/4. It stabilizes him fairly well. Oh, actually, that is a Obelisk in play, so they would be
Five
five
fives.
Shimmer packs.
Well, his would
I
be 5/5, and Comp's would be only a 4/4.
I, I believe that the Talir's Favored would turn into a 6/6 Shimmer pack because it would get the 5/5 from the other Shimmer pack and then also the +1/+1. But well, we'll see when the Shimmer pack actually comes down. For this turn, Toth decides to deploy a whole bunch of tokens, which are now staring down two Argent Port Instigators. So that's 2 damage every time a token dies. That's a lot of damage when you're at 9.
It's interesting he decided not to polymorph that Maiden. Now, if Kampf does attack in and force some trades, he's going to get some cudgels. And then even a polymorphed unit with cudgels is a large threat, as they'll still get the +2/+2 for each cudgel on it. But I think Kampf might hold back to block those Yetis so that Toth doesn't draw any cards.
Yeah, there's always the possibility that Toth just has the Shimmer pack in hand, and that's pretty scary for Kampf. He doesn't unlike us, he can't see Toss hand. So if he went power Shimmer pack, I think that's lethal if Kampf gets in there with two guys. So that's certainly
Almost
something to be
certainly
afraid
all
of.
the units double buffed by the obelisk.
Yeah. Even now, with the power that he did draw, these 3/3s are going to be able to get favorable trades, and he's still going to draw cards. I think Toss turning the corner.
Yeah, I agree. He's looking quite good. It's somewhat awkward that he never had time to deploy this Vault of the Practice in his hand due to how much pressure he was under.
Now
But it's looking like after he draws these cards with the Yetis, he isn't going to need that.
he is dead to a Soulfire Drake off of a top deck power though. With the changes to patches 114, Soulfire Drake now has a full 5 attack, which will be enough in order to take down Toth. So that's something that he needs to be concerned about, even though he's drawn all these cards. If he didn't find a flyer, he could just be dead.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't look like he has any answer. He just has another polymorph and that Vault of the Practice he's been sitting on all game.
And there it is.
And,
Well, that's
and
certainly
Kampf takes the first match.
that's a match-winning draw if I've ever seen one. And I have to say, I give myself props for those called shots.
Yeah, so we're going to have them de-sideboard and start a new match anew.
Yeah, we are going to be taking a very quick break just to make sure that the players know what's going on. But we will be right back again with Grand Finals Round 2.
Yep, this is going to be
Welcome back, everybody, to the Grand Finals reset. We've gone the full distance in this tournament. Every single round that could be played has been played, as our losers bracket winner KampfKrote has defeated Toth 201 3-1 in the Grand Finals. And as Toth had yet to lose a match, that brings us to our final match of the series.
Yep. So you have to lose twice to be out. Toth has now lost once. Kampf lost once earlier. So this is it. It all comes down to this one best of 5 match. The winner of this is going to be the Invitational champion.
And they are going to get that oh so important champion tag on Discord so that everybody knows it.
Yeah, I've heard it's very hard to acquire a tag like that.
Uh, there are fewer champions than there are mods, for one thing, and I think there's actually less than 4. I only personally know of 3 off the top of my head, of which I am one, actually. Sir Rhino is another, so we had a tournament champion playing in it. And the admin and Discord owner, as well as Reddit mod, Zariah. So those are the only ones that I'm aware of. So the winner of this match will be joining that very exclusive club.
Yep, and it looks like they're about to start the match, and we'll see who can join that pantheon of greatness.
Well, that pantheon of above averageness, I suppose. We're not all. Well, that said, this match has certainly turned out very differently than I thought it would. It looks like the Shimmer Pack deck has the advantage in pre-board games, but with all the powerful 4 and 5 drops as well as the treacheries that Conf has been able to bring in, it looks like he's been able to swing it back in the post board.
Hey, he finally saw that plague, but unfortunately in a no power hand he has to mulligan.
Yeah. So Plague well, we see another one here. So Comp has finally found his plagues, and that may enable him to survive these pre-board games.
Yeah, if he can get out that Argenport Instigator first and then Plague for big damage like we saw him do earlier today, it could go a long way towards taking the lead here in this final set.
The question now becomes, do you Instigator or do you get rid of your opponent's 1-1? And it looks like Conf is more concerned about his opponent's development than accelerating his own, which probably makes sense since he doesn't have a power drop in hand. He doesn't want to get too far behind on board.
Yeah, letting your opponent drop a turn 3 Vault of the Praxis or Xenon Obelisk is a good way to get really far behind.
Mm-hmm. And since he does not draw a power, he seems to be in the same straits that he was, I believe, in game 1, could have been game 2 of our previous series against Toth. Behind, opponent is developing fine, and he's just got nothing in the way of power.
The difference here is that he has a Plague, so if he's able to deploy that Plague and kill a bunch of units before Toth plays his Xenon Obelisk, then he'll be right back in the driver's seat. He just needs to draw another couple of power.
Yeah, but Toth does have that Xenon Obelisk in hand, which may push his units out of plague range if he can get it down in time.
Yeah, and we'll see if Toth opts to deploy that Xenon Obelisk to protect from Plague, or if he wants to play some more units first.
Statuary Maiden is a good card in this matchup, as is the Champion, but neither are what you want to see when you're stuck on 2. I think...
Well, Comp's taking a aggressive lean here. I would be inclined to hang back and block when I'm missing on power, but he just wants to get in there.
It's possible that he thinks that his best line is drawing that power, getting the big plague swing, the big damage, and putting his opponent on the back foot. If his opponent is forced far enough on a defensive posture, he may be able to reclaim some ground.
Yeah, and there's another 1 health unit, so if ever there were a time for him to draw an undepleted power, this would be it.
Can he do it? He did it last match, and he does it again. Conf with the top deck mastery, just pulling power to the top when he needs it most.
And this is going to be a big crunch. We're looking at 7 damage here, and before Toth could deploy his Obelisk to protect all of his units.
So just in time, since as we know, he's on 4 power and has that Obelisk in hand. That was a big draw for Conf. These are the kind of draws that win you tournaments, as that last match has shown.
The heart of the cards is strong with this one.
I may have to resign my name pretty soon. We're seeing the true master here. That said, Toss not out of it yet. He's got plenty of good cards in his hand. Some Marison's Disciples to come up the board, Obelisk to make him bigger, and he's pretty close to having that fully activated Obelisk with the 8 power. That said,
yeah, and once he plays this Vault of the Praxis and starts deploying these Maryland's disciples. He should be able to draw enough cards to keep up with all of Kampf's removal.
Marison's not Maryland.
Marison, yes. The eldest, how could I forget?
Yes. So interesting that he decides to play Obelisk on that turn instead of a Disciple.
I guess it makes his follow-up disciple have two bodies that can trade with an Argent Port Instigator.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain about that play, but um, he's gonna have a quite a good follow up here. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kampf is still missing on power and forced to deploy a 3/3 Champion of Chaos. You don't see that very often. It has neither triple fire nor triple shadow influence.
And this 4/4 Beetle is going to be stopping a whole lot, but oh, Kampf shows it off again as he just peels the power that he needs to put himself back in the driver's seat. His
Yeah,
Statuary
it looks like
Maiden,
it's maiden time.
yeah, and then you can crunch with the champion, right?
It'll just trade with the Beetle, but I suppose that would get you a cudgel.
Yeah,
Well, it looks like he's going for a Steward of the Past.
interesting. It looks like he's thinking about it.
The
What do you
Steward.
like here?
Well, so the Statuary Maiden is the aggressive choice if you want to then attack with your 4/4, but the Steward is a defensive choice as it can block and trade favorably with the 4/4 Overwhelm Beetle on Toth's side. So he's taking a more defensive route now.
Any thought to the other line of playing your champion and holding up a torch? You know, if you do peel an extra and Kampf has shown his ability to peel power. If you do peel a Shadow Sigil, you have two 5/5s attacking, and you could have torched away his 3/3 and kept on going.
I like holding the torch until you have the Statuary Maiden in play. You get to kind of jumpstart your cudgel production,
Okay.
but that might be a little too greedy.
So here we see the Vault of the Praxis come down, and well, there's that Shadow Sigil that we talked about, and he's considering combining the Vera's Favor with the Torch to take down the 4/4. Um,
Well, so
honestly,
the board is pretty well stalled now. I kind of like playing Statuary Maiden and then going for a flurry of removal next turn.
really, I I I think you already have the Torch. Personally, I would go Vera's Favor into Champion, and then you can even well, you don't attack with the champion there, but you can play the champion if you want to. I think it sets you up better. If you draw another power, you can go Infernal Tyrant if you want to. If you don't, you can go Statuary Maiden plus Torch.
Yeah, the Infernal Tyrant doesn't do a whole lot here, though. It just trades with one or two little units. I think
Okay.
that getting the Statuary Maiden into play before you do all of your trades is certainly where you want to be.
He he ended up going with this line, which I think is fine. Here we're going to see Vault of the Praxis actually do its job and draw a card. And there is a 3/3 in the air, but fortunately, Kampf still has the torch. Although a power takes that out of consideration.
Yeah,
So
plus two to all units on Toss side, but there's really still not big enough to match these units of Kampf.
so he can play the rest of his hand. Do you just dump it here, or do you save it for more Vault of the Praxis draws?
Well, so the Grenadin drone isn't really doing anything. I think you at least save the Grenadin drone so that you can draw an extra card next turn off of your Vault of the Praxis.
Okay, decides to hold on to both. And you don't have too many good torch trades now.
Yeah, just a Temple Scribe, I suppose. But anything is good for a cudgel. And you probably hold off on attacking for another turn here.
Yeah, I think you want to make one of your champions a 7/7 before you start getting in there. That
Yeah,
said,
oddly, the more units that Kampf gets in play, the better it's looking.
I think you have a free attack with the Steward if you want it. He doesn't really want to trade anything. He doesn't really want to trade his 5/5 for it, and if you do, you don't really care since the champions are more important. So I think you get in with him and get in with the Steward and pressure him. So he goes with the more aggressive line, and then thinks better of it. Okay.
I do like that Steward attack, though. That is pretty free.
Yeah.
Because Toth isn't threatening lethal on the crackback. Kampf still has 23 health to his opponent's 18 total strength in play.
Well, one thing that we're not considering is there's always the possibility of a Shimmer Pack coming down, and you always need to have enough blockers in play to deal with that. So Shimmer Pack math, those are all going to be 6/6s or 8/8s. God, Obelisk with Shimmer Pack is a nightmare, kids. Uh, if you
Threat of
must,
Shimmer Pack actually is probably why he is so aggressive always. You need to trade off units before Shimmer Pack goes and turns the whole board topsy turvy against you.
yeah. Well, if he's that worried about Shimmer Pack, I think you do make the big push for damage there. I don't think this game gets better if you are waiting around and letting Toth build up his board. I think as we've seen before, you really need to keep the board low in order to win. Otherwise, these big Shimmer Pack turns are just gonna put you away.
Yeah, and a big attack here, in addition to trading off for a bunch of units and getting a bunch of cudgels, also pushes a bunch of damage with the Argenport Instigator triggers. Maybe putting Toth into range of a top deck Umbran Reaper, perhaps.
Well, depending on how he blocks, if he does it incorrectly enough, those champions have Deadly and Overwhelm, as we've talked about before. They push through damage -1 for each blocker they have. So if the wrong combination of blocks occurs, Argenport Instigator may just finish him off. Toth does not have a lot of health to work with.
That's true. He has 7 blockers total. So three. So if he blocks all of the other units and puts the remaining 4 in front of those champions, he still is taking 6, 10, 11. That might even be lethal damage once you put the Stone Cudgel on a champion.
I think Toth just has lethal if he A plus spaces. Every blocker on a champion is negated by the instigator damage, so that's 10 damage from those two. Plus, he has 2 other units at least that need to be blocked that'll deal lethal damage, and the instigator will trample over because of the deadly. If he just goes all face here, he wins the game.
Oh yeah, because 2 of the units have deadly and will kill their blockers no matter what.
Now he didn't have this last turn because he only had 3 lethal attackers, but this attack is also lethal.
Yeah, I think he
Because
sees it.
it's 12. But sending all of them would have been the cleaner play. So Instigator combines with Deadly and Overwhelm to push through the lethal damage that Conf needs, as basically every draw could have been a Deadly Shimmer Pack, or even just another Obelisk would have put it away. So
I think Toth is doing the math we were just doing and realizing now that he can't survive this attack.
Champion of Chaos has a very powerful combination of abilities. And the Instigator here is filling in the gaps. It turns out this game wasn't about Statuary Maiden. It was about how much damage Conf could do to Toss life total.
Yeah, every single time that Argenport Instigator comes down on turn 2, it pushes so much damage from the Stone Scar side. It's just an incredible 2-drop.
We keep calling this a mid-range deck, and we keep thinking about the grind, and he just keeps going face.
It's an aggressive mid-range deck.
But that's very good. Conf is showing a very good ability in order to change gears to determine when he needs to be aggressive, when he should play defensive. So holding back his attackers last turn, since he didn't have lethal attackers, turned out to be very good since he could just attack in this turn for lethal.
Yeah, he was able to fade the 1 lethal draw and won the game the next turn.
Okay, there we go.
Exactly.
Conf goes up 1-0, and he's dodged that pre-board win that we were also worried about. So since, again, players do not need to sideboard, we're going to stick around. They're probably going to get right back into it, I imagine. And the hand cam shows that they're already right back into game.
We haven't seen a Shimmer Pack itself for several games here. I'm getting kind of antsy. I want to see a Shimmer Pack.
We haven't seen Toth win a game in 4 games. It's possible that Conf has figured out this matchup.
He certainly seems to be making all the right attacks, and all of his removal choices are working out perfectly for him.
Well, most of it is he's able to summon power to the top of his deck whenever he needs it. His draws are certainly favoring him, and here he's got 2 fully powered Champions of Chaos ready to go.
Yeah, this is just going to be some more brutal, overwhelm, deadly beatdown action, and he doesn't even need to float a power to the top of his deck magically this game.
Although he does, of course. It's Conf.
It's just one short of playing that Infernal Tyrant now, I suppose.
Yeah. And Scorpion Wasp does not line up against Champion of Chaos nearly as well as Permafrost does, and Toth doesn't see any Permafrost at the moment.
He does have 4 units on turn 2,
No, no,
though,
no. Okay.
and Kampf doesn't even have anything to play.
And with two obelisks, it's possible that we could end up into a double racing situation, as obelisk into obelisk is going to do a whole lot of damage to Comp's face. There's that.
There's that Gator 1 turn too late. That would have saved so much damage.
Yeah, but as we've talked about, Conf does have the Infernal Tyrant in hand that can turn around nearly any race, gaining him 2 life for each unit he has in play. And if he draws the power for it now, so he might be just fine. I don't think you attack this turn with your champion. Okay. But Conf does. Conf is confident in his ability to push the damage through and have the Infernal Tyrant follow up to keep him alive in the face of the large attacking force that Toth is going to be presenting.
Well, Kampf put 3 cost 5/5s in his deck. He didn't come here to not attack.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. And with Overwhelm, they're lining up pretty well against all these 2/2s, which are now 3/3s. Literally any other 5/5 would just get double blocked here.
Oh, Kampf has the ridiculous Argenport Instigator followed by attack with these with a torch to break up any multi blocks that Toth makes. This is gonna be another 10 plus damage.
Yeah, and I certainly think you use the torch rather than toss the Countess out there. Countess lines up much worse than these champions do.
Absolutely brutal. One of those champions survives, and Toth is reduced to no units in play and only 9 health.
I think we might be seeing a quick 2-0.
So he has a Scorpion Wasp, which can trade with a champion at the cost of taking another 5 damage.
These
We're
instigators are
assembly
covering
line.
2 assembly lines.
That is a lot of Grenadin.
So Toth can pile 5 Grenadins in front of the champion if he doesn't want to take any damage from it, but he still just takes all the damage from the instigator.
Yeah, I don't even know about attacking with the Instigator here.
He has the Annihilate to protect it. He's hoping that he gets another free unit out of it, I believe. And it's not like
Good
Toth can
point.
ignore it. He's at 9 health.
Yeah, so the safe play is to triple block the champion and double block the Instigator. In fact, that's the only way that he doesn't get blown out this turn. But even then, he's going to take a lot of damage.
6. So he does double block the instigator, which I think is fine. I don't know about annihilating here though. I don't think you annihilate once the double block's been called. I think you just deploy your
let your
Infernal
units
Tyrant.
die and play Infernal Tyrant.
Well, the problem with this line is that he does 6 damage, but now his board's clear. And his opponent has a few cards. And since he doesn't have that Argenport Instigator and Toth made the correct block, since he couldn't protect it with the Annihilate, he needs to actually draw something in order to push through damage. Like the Cabal Countess can just get chumped even if he activates it. Otherwise it trades. The Infernal Tyrant's not going to get through there. So
he can't even play the Infernal Tyrant as long as this Cabal Countess is in play.
If Toth just plays units, I think Toth is okay.
Yeah. Oh, and a Permafrost.
Oh, but Kampf shows off his top decking skills once again, pulls a deadly Overwhelmer to the top, and forces Toth to regret playing that Permafrost just a turn ago. But Toth shows off his own skills by playing a second one, and we have ourselves a game.
Yep, it's just Infernal Tyrant versus the world now. But Kampf is ahead 22 health to 3. If he ever draws a torch, this game will be over instantly.
Whoa.
He just throws down a Scorpion Wasp. And Kampf reveals that the last card in his hand is another power.
Yes. Which is, well, it pulls out a lot of the bluffing that you can do. And he declines to attack as it turns I think more. I think it gives him more outs later in the game. Toth
Yeah, a
doesn't have any
removal
to put
spell
away.
is lethal if he doesn't attack. But he does not find a removal spell, instead just Avara's favor, so he'll deal 1 damage.
And Toth, I think he's able to finally to play that scouting party, which is going to turn this board totally on its head and put Kampf into the sort of need to top deck torch range. You can even get in there with that Scorpion Wasp, I think.
Yeah, and Toth's last card in hand is a Shimmer Pack, which is not lethal. So Kampf has 2 draws to find a torch, or is there any other draw that does it for him? He doesn't have any Soulfire Drakes or Obliterates in the main deck.
I don't like not attacking with that Wasp. I think you start pushing damage through. Shimmer packs make everything a 8/8, I think.
I don't know about Shimmer Packing there. I
Oh,
would
okay,
have
six
preferred to
six.
draw a bunch of cards with the Yetis.
Well, this
Oh,
that's
never
lethal.
mind.
That's
That's
lethal.
just lethal damage.
Yeah. Okay. So Shimmer pack no longer double counts. So that's answering that question. It's just whatever they were. And Toth is able to hold it out. The Instigator trade ends up harming Kampf as he just draws power after power and isn't able to close it out. And we're now at 1-1. So the players are going into sideboarding. And let's take a look at Toth, since we're pretty sure that we know what's going on with um, Kampf. Although I imagine both players are pretty sure what they're doing in their sideboarding by now.
Yeah, they've already played a set, seen sort of what the other player is sideboarding, so I think they know. Toth brings in Polymorph, and Kampf brings in Soulfire Drake, and Treachery as well, I believe.
So do you think
Had
about
in.
Crystallize here? Because there have been a lot of boards where Toth just can't attack through, but if he gets that Crystallize to get those 2 attacks with his 2/2s, he's going to be able to do lethal in 2 turns.
Yeah, I like Crystallize a lot. Even when you're in a racing situation, it still turns off 1 turn's worth of attacks from your opponent, which is often all you need to turn the math in your favor.
Okay, so do you like Backlash then? Or do you prefer a more proactive strategy with, flood the board, play some obelisks, and get in there with Crystallize?
I like flooding the board. I don't like Backlash. It's only countering removal spells, and the removal spells aren't particularly good against you, anyways. So I don't think you need the protection that Backlash provides. I'd rather just have more units, more obelisks.
I bet he wishes he had another Permafrost in the board, given the way these games have gone.
Yeah, that has been his best card. The clutch permafrost on that Champion of Chaos last game.
hmm The The Scorpion Wasps haven't looked that good in this matchup. I don't know. I don't know if you keep them in, if you go for something else. It's Toss sideboard is not really set up for this matchup all that well, in terms of having a broad number of options. But it looks like we are getting back into game here, so we will go back down to the match. Both players are tied 1-1 in a best of 5, and sideboarding is now live. So let's get to it.
Now, it looks like Toth left in those wasps, which, well, they don't match up particularly well. They do kill a unit, and sometimes you need to take 5 damage and or give your opponent a cudgel to kill an important unit.
Yeah, they also, you can surprise your opponent with a large wasp and then shimmer packet and all that sort of stuff. So they have some utility. They're not optimal for this matchup, that's for sure.
When Kampf has a very burn heavy hand in this game. I guess falling just short in that last game made him realize he wanted some obliterate action.
Yeah, I think that Kampf is very much on the more aggressive plan now. He's given away all thoughts of holding back and eventually dying to a big shimmer pack. He's just trying to get in there, push damage, and force his opponent to be on the back foot.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the tools he needs to put on an aggressive clock this game, though. His only unit is Steward of the Past, which is a 4 power, 3 strength unit.
Even a top tech champion won't change that. Although it will now with the Shadow Sigil, but before it would have just been a 3/3. It's really those that overwhelm and deadly boost that make the champion such a powerful threat.
Yeah, so this is just going all according to plan for Toth. He's just playing a bunch of units, sitting on a Shimmer pack in hand.
Well, there's
And
that.
there's the champion.
Toth does draw his Fire Sigil that he needs in order to start playing out his assembly line. And he does have the Shimmer Pack on 7, and he's not that far away from it. So we might see this game going pretty quickly in Toss' favor if he can draw a bit more power.
Ugh, Kampf has to use a Suffocate on a Temple Scribe. That doesn't feel good.
It could be the right play. I mean, there's not a lot of high value cards from Toss side, and it's not like a Suffocate's ever going to hit a Scorpion Wasp. So you take what you can get. You're basically just aiming at 1/1s before they become 4/4s.
That's fair. Toth is going to need to produce a lot of power to be able to challenge this champion this turn. So I like clearing the board.
So do you Polymorph here? You Marisons. Okay. So one thing to consider is that Toth finally has enough of a life total to make that Scorpion Wasp trade on the champion, which he has not had most of the times that he's had that Scorpion Wasp in previous games. Although he decides instead to go for the little 1/1 deadly guy, which is interesting.
You get messed up by a Varus favor, so his blocking is not going according to plan. And I imagine if Kampf's history is anything to indicate, he's going to attack here.
Yeah, I think that's the play. You've got 12 points of burn in hand. All you need is for your opponent to fall down to take 10 more damage. That's all you need. And we may know that, but Toth doesn't know just how precariously close to dead he is already.
Yeah, and Kampf does have a follow-up unit. It's not that exciting. That's Steward of the Past, but he does have multiple ways to attack.
Yeah, and with no obelisks in play, the Shimmer Packs aren't going to be that better than 4/4s even if they come down. The Stewards can block them. Here we see he left in Deathstrike. This is a post-board game, so it's very interesting to see Deathstrike still in the list. I guess just
I wonder
aggressive.
what he did cut. Maybe he took out all of those treacheries that he was using before?
It's possible. Here he uses another torch. Well, the problem here is that he's used 6 points of his burn killing units, and he's now much, much further away from killing Toth. Toth is looking a whole lot better in this game than he was in previous ones.
Yeah, Toth just needs to find one more power, and there it is. So Shimmer Pack is ready.
Yeah. There's another blocker, but, well, that's a good enough blocker at least. But if he's getting in there, you just let this through if you're Toth, right? You can attack for 20 next turn? Yeah, 20.
Oh yeah, you definitely let it through. Your units are so precious when they're about to get upgraded to 4/4s next turn.
I don't mind blocking here. Well, while it seems kind of weird if you're just getting lethal, that extra guy doesn't put it to lethal. And it would have traded with the champion, but at least you got a Death Strike out of his hand.
Yeah, and that champion's about to get downgraded to a 4/4 without Deadly here.
I think we're going to see a full board of Shimmer Packs, and this time no concession. There we are.
8 Shimmer Packs!
Woo!
Shimmer Pack pipe.
I-
So can Kampf survive this next turn?
Well, that's a dead draw. The answer to that is no. He can play a removal spell or a blocker, both do the same thing, and then he simply does not have enough health to survive the 6 Shimmer Packs that are going to come crashing in. It looks like Toss going to take this game.
Wow, Shimmer Pack. Finally, we got it. And he obliterates himself.
Going out with style.
That's interesting. You reveal that he has Obliterate in his deck. Is he going to re-sideboard now?
Well, he revealed that he had Death Strike, which was also interesting. I'm mostly interesting that he had Death Strike still in his deck, because that's not a card that we expected there. But Toth is now 1 game away from clinching the grand finals of the November Invitational. This was a man who, in the fan vote, did so poorly he received 0 votes, and he is actually facing off the player who received the most votes with over 30% of the overall vote in KampfKrote. KampfKrote fought his way through the November, the last chance qualifier yesterday, was the winner of that, and he's fought his way for a rematch against Lineyvine in round 3 of winners bracket, dropped down to losers, fought his way back, had another rematch with Lineyvine in losers finals, which he won and brought himself all the way to here. With his tournament on the line, will Kampf be able to win this game and take us to Game 5 of the second and final Grand Final Series?
And looks like they're ready and they're jumping in. Toth just needs one more game, and Kampf has to win 2 in a row with his back against the wall.
Well, if anybody can draw like if Kampf has shown he is capable of drawing clutch in clutch situations, and this hand is not clutch, but could quickly become very good if he happens to peel power.
Yeah, he just wants to draw power every turn. It looks like, and he starts off with one right away. Fortune is smiling upon them both here, and Toth did bring in the backlashes. I wonder what he's hoping to counter with those. Maybe the obliterate that Kampf revealed.
Possibly plagues, could be a whole lot of things. Kampf does not appear to be on the treachery plan, so it can't be those. But yeah, those torches and things were causing him some problems.
Yeah, I guess it does protect you from the combat blowouts when you multi-block.
That said, drawing 2 is very rarely where you want to be against this style of deck. Kampf's got a hand of units, and Toss looking at two backlashes. Not exactly what he wants.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to sit on those backlashes while Cabal Countesses beat him down. Toth doesn't even have a single strength on the board to his name.
No.
Whereas Kampf is coming in for 7 here.
And if these countesses ever get dealt with, he's got champions to back him up. He's got Stonescar Maiden. He could even play a Furnace Mage if somehow an Obelisk gets out of control. Kampf's hand is full of good things, and Toss' hand is kind of weak. Drawing a card off Marison's Disciple is certainly helpful, and we are going to have some lag here, which is unfortunate. But okay, he's at 5 power. So a card that could certainly turn this around is Scouting Party, if he happens to peel a power for it. Ura's Favor is okay. It activates his cards. He needs to play it, but it's certainly worse than drawing an actual power would have been.
Yeah, he will have those 4/4 champions coming in next turn, though. And he continues to be aggressive, pressing in with all of his units. That's going to create some trades and push through another 6 damage, dropping Toth down to 11 health.
Still, I think Toss happy to make that trade. Would just rather have the board be smaller so that he can play out his threats. Like, there you go. There's an assembly line that's going to draw him a card off of that Vault to the Praxis and stabilize the board a bit.
Yeah, it's certainly looking not terrible for Toth. He just needs to dodge a couple of fire influence from Kampf, which would turn those champions into those 5/5 overwhelms that we've seen do so much damage this match.
Well, it's really important that Kampf happened to draw Shadow Sigils instead of Fire Sigils. 4/4 Overwhelms would have been really good here, whereas 4/4 Deadlies are not particularly impressive, and making the Statuary Maiden the better play. Although it just meets with the Polymorph.
Yeah, so if Kampf does draw power now, there won't be a polymorph. Well, there is another polymorph, it looks like, but otherwise this Drake would potentially end the game by giving all of his units in his deck flying, which Toth doesn't really have a good way to deal with.
Yeah. So if we assume that this Drake gets dealt with, Toth's still in pretty good shape. A single Fire Sigil off the top would be incredibly bad for Toth because it would mean 2 5/5 champions are coming down. But accepting that case.
Oh, and Toth does not draw an undepleted power, so he is not able to polymorph that Soulfire Drake.
Uh-oh.
So he's going to drop down to 3 now.
Here we see some more Suffocates on 1/1s. Oh, but a negate?
Backlashing a Suffocate on a 1/1. What is this world coming to?
Well, it's coming to another Suffocate. That's what we can say. And the Kampf's just push, push, push.
I think you don't swing with the Countess here. Eventually, you're going to be able to ultimate that. But I guess Shimmer Pack could come down now, so trading units is in Kampf's favor.
Yeah. There's a whole whole argument here about whether or not you trade with the frog, which is pretty funny. Um, you drop to
Suppose
3 either way, so you're in torch range and you know your opponent doesn't have it. The units in play are kind of important, but if you don't trade, it's just going to attack next turn and you're going to be faced with a similar decision. So,
as long as Kampf doesn't draw fire influence, then that's fine. But if he does draw fire, suddenly with the units in play, Toth is dead on board.
yeah.
So Toth has a Scorpion Wasp and a Permafrost, so he's going to be able to neuter these units. But Kampf does have a follow-up.
I think polymorph is going to happen. Actually, do you just play Shimmer Pack here? Polymorph the Drake, polymorph the champion, make a bunch of 4/4s? You don't even care about
Then
the abilities anymore. It's like a double polymorph that also advances your board. I think that's the better play.
yeah, turn everything into 4/4s and then don't attack so that you don't die to a removal spell.
Yeah,
But he asked for the double removal.
I think that was actually worse than just playing Shimmer Pack there, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
I
now he's going to have to trade with these frogs, and his Shimmer Pack is going to be a lot worse.
well, look at this problem. The yeah,
Oh, Furnace Mage destroys the Permafrost, but that champion does not have Overwhelm, so Scorpion Wasp is able to cleanly remove it.
ooh, you go to 1. You go to 1. Oh, no, Toth. Come on, you've come this far. You let a frog through. You go to 1. You make the Shimmer
Uh,
play.
Staying at 2 does leave you in better shape against Vara's favor.
Yes.
So
But
he's perhaps playing around that, but now the Shimmer Pack is kind of weak. It just pumps out one additional 4/4.
uh, he can play Storm Dancer and leave up backlash against any burn spell that his opponent might play. So that may be the line that he takes, since the Storm Dancer can trade with the Furnace Mage.
Yeah, that's certainly a very safe play. This game is really coming down to the wire. A real slobber knocker.
So I don't actually know the answer. I think I know the answer. Um, Transforming units into Shimmer Packs doesn't count as them coming into play, right? You wouldn't draw a card off Vault of the Praxis. Well,
Correct.
my
You do not draw. They do not have summoning sickness either when they are polymorphed. And it looks like playing around that Vara's favor saved the game for Toth.
Ace shows off his profitabilities as he calls the exact card that Conf was about to draw. That if Toth did not play around with my aggressive line of going to 1, would have killed him. Although it
I guess
wouldn't
he
have
did
killed
have
him
the
because he had the
backlash if he did
backlash.
need it.
But certainly much better to not have to use it here. I imagine Toth's going to be holding it up for as long as he can now.
All right, and Kampf is now handless. He's just playing off the top of his deck. And if he draws a fire sigil, no amount of units here is really going to be enough. So I think Toth might have to just Shimmer Pack and pray.
I think the Shimmer Pack disappeared from his hand, so yeah, I think that's what's happening. Decent
Yeah,
camp
so he just
camp
needs
is
to
hard.
dodge one turn of Burn Spell.
Yeah. And since he still has a hand, again, we can predict the future and say that he does. There's that fire sigil. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
So Toth can not
Toth
only
is just
see
playing around everything perfectly.
he can not only see the board, his hand, his opponent's hand. He can also see the top of Comp's deck, as he perfectly just one turn beforehand plays around the exact card that Comp is about to draw.
Yeah, 2 turns in a row. He might actually have this locked up now. He can deploy a unit while holding up Backlash so that Kampf can't win with the removal spell. So Kampf need to draw exactly a Soulfire Drake or Umbran Reaper. Well, and even Umbran Reaper doesn't do it because of the Permafrost in Toth's hand.
If he plays the Storm Dancer here and holds up Backlash, I think he's got it, because that can block the Soulfire Drake, and then the next turn the Obelisk can come down, and then you can start attacking, and then you've turned the corner.
Yeah, I think that is the play. I think he has found a way to play around everything. Although this attack, if he makes this attack, then if Kampf draws a removal spell, he can destroy the 4/4 Shimmer Pack, and Toth will be forced to chump block with the Storm Dancer.
Did anybody else's eyes bug out when he made 2 when he clicked on that second Shimmer Pack? Because that was an aggressive line. Okay, yeah. There's the Storm Dancer play. There's the Annihilate, which
Oh, you
targets the
do
Storm
not
Dancer.
pack though, as it is a multi-faction unit, and this probably gets backlashed.
Is that right though? Because the question is, the cards that you're most concerned about are burn spells, and he has a lot more burn spells than he has Soulfire Drakes, and you beat every other card. So since he can't attack with the 4/4 through your Shimmer pack, maybe you just let that happen and sit on the backlash.
Yeah, Toth is no longer playing around everything. He has. Oh no, he just has a lethal attack here. That's 17 damage.
Okay,
Toth is our invitational champion.
so he drew the power, played the permafrost, and he made it through. So wow, okay. Toth, after getting 3-1 by Kampf in the first round of the grand finals, is able to use his winner's bracket advantage to bring it back with a 3-1 victory over Kampf in the very final match of our set. Congratulations to Toth.
Yeah,
he's
very well played.
he's really stuck it to all the fan vote people. With 0 votes to his name, he says, "I don't need you," and goes and wins the tournament anyway with, of all things, 3-color Shimmer Pack.
This goes to show, what do we know as fans?
What do we know as casters? I thought that was going to go a completely different way.
Yeah, but very impressive play by Toth. Very impressive play by Kampf. Impressive play by everyone, really. A lot of great stuff went on today.
Yeah, this was a very well played tournament. Some great draws on both sides, some great plays on both sides, but Toth is eventually our tournament champion. So let's go back through the